Coming live from the Tivoli Met Radio studio here on our area campus, this is All Sports with Gerardo. Thank you for listening to All Sports through Met Radio on mymetmedia.com, live every Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. This is your host Gerardo, and all I talk is sports. On the show today, I am going to talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college basketball. So before I start the show, I hope you all had a great week. To start off with some Major League Baseball, Ozzie Albies and the Braves have agreed to a 7-year contract extension. Matt Carpenter and the Cardinals have agreed to a 2-year contract extension. Jorge De La Rosa and the Rockies have agreed to a minor league contract. Opening day for the Rockies was Friday, April 5th against the Dodgers at Coors Field. The Rockies' first homestand at Coors Field was against the Dodgers and against the Braves. Last weekend, the Rockies went against the Dodgers, and during the week, the Rockies went against the Braves. The last game of the Braves series had to be postponed due to the weather conditions, and the Rockies-Braves game will be made up on Monday, August 26th. Right now I'm going to talk about the Rockies and how they started off the season. So on Sunday when the Rockies went against the Dodgers, it was on Sunday Night Baseball, which is aired on ESPN. And that was the first Sunday night game that the Rockies have played in at Coors Field in 18 years. Now, the way the Rockies played in that game, it's probably going to be a few more years until we see another Sunday Night Baseball game that the Rockies play in, especially here at Coors Field. The Rockies started off the 2 games of the regular season great. They won those first 2 games. But after that, the Rockies just haven't been able to win. The only other game that they won was against the Rays, which was the last game down in Tampa when it went to the 11th inning and Chris Iannetta hit that walk-off home run in the 11th inning to win the game. Other than that, the Rockies have only won the first 2 games of the season against the Marlins down in Miami, and they won the last game against the Rays down in Tampa. They haven't been able to win any other games. They're winless here at Coors Field so far this season. Now that the Rockies' first homestand and first road trip is out of the way, the Rockies are going on the road and playing the Giants over the weekend. And hopefully the Rockies can play some great baseball and get back to their winning ways and at least try to win a game in these next few games. It's surprising that the Rockies have had these early struggles, with it only being the beginning of the season. But hopefully this doesn't carry on for a long time or for the rest of the season, because the Rockies have high expectations for themselves, and a lot of other people expect the Rockies to go far this season. But a lot of reasons why the Rockies have had early struggles is because of injuries. Daniel Murphy's going to be out for more than a month since he injured his finger. David Dahl had to come out of the Sunday Night Baseball game against the Dodgers with an injury. He's been placed on the 10-day DL. He's going to miss some time. Ryan McMahon's injured. He's going to miss some time. Tyler Anderson was placed on the 10-day DL. He's going to miss some time. Now, for Tyler Anderson, he hasn't started off that great. He was struggling in spring training, and that carried on into the regular season as well. His starts haven't been that great, and the Rockies really need him in that starting rotation because he's a left-handed pitcher, and the Rockies are in need of a left-handed starting pitcher. So hopefully when Tyler Anderson comes off the disabled list, he can pitch better and have better starts once he's back. For Ian Desmond, he hasn't started off the season great at all either. He hasn't been able to hit. He's been striking out a lot, so hopefully Ian Desmond can get back to hitting and producing some runs because the Rockies definitely do need his bat in their lineup. Charlie Blackmon started off the season playing okay, when he was playing in that Sunday night baseball game, he was struggling. He wasn't able to make catches. Charlie Blackmon was letting the baseball go over his head. He was missing those easy catches. It's a big adjustment for Charlie Blackmon because now he's playing in right field instead of playing in center field, where he's been playing his whole career except for this year. And it's a big change for Ian Desmond too, because now he's playing center field. The Rockies had to move Charlie Blackmon to right field because he's their franchise player, and they want him to last a few more years, and for many years as well. So keeping him out there in center field, he probably wouldn't be able to have as long of a career as he would if he got moved to different positions. So Charlie Blackmon and Nolan Arenado are definitely the face of the franchise right now. With Raimel Tapia being here on the active roster, he started off the season great. And with having to come in for David Dahl out there in left field, he's been hitting at the plate. He's been making some great catches as well. So keep an eye out on Raimel Tapia. He started off the season really great. Now Josh Fuentes, Nolan Arenado's cousin, he's got a chance with the Rockies. Last weekend he got called up when he came for his first at-bat for his Major League debut. He had a hit. He started Monday's game against the Braves, so when Josh Fuentes has been starting for the Rockies or coming off the bench, he has definitely been an impact to the team. He's been great at the plate and on the field as well, so hopefully Josh Fuentes has a great career with the Rockies and in baseball. He should definitely be a great player. He looks like he's going to be a great player. He's Nolan Arenado's cousin. With Josh Fuentes learning from Nolan Arenado, that's going to show how great of a player he should be, able to produce runs and make big plays on the field since he's learning from one of the best. And that will definitely have a big impact on Josh Fuentes as well. Now looking at the current division standings in the American League and in the National League, to start off in the American League East, right now the Rays are leading this division. They're one of the best teams in baseball. They're 10-3 right now, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for them. In the American League Central, right now the Indians and the Tigers are leading this division. They both have won 8 games so far. And in the American League West, right now the Mariners are leading this division. They're 13-2. That's one of the best records in baseball right now. And they're currently leading this division. And they've started off the season great. In the National League East, right now the Braves, Mets, and Phillies are tied at 7 games. The Braves, Mets, Phillies, and Nationals, this could be a 4-team race in this division. And it may come down to the end of the season, and that will determine what team's going to win the National League East. This is definitely going to be a competitive division, and it's definitely going to be a tight race. In the National League Central, right now the Brewers and Cardinals have won 8 games so far. And in the National League West, right now the Padres and the Dodgers have won 8 games so far. So there's definitely been some surprise teams, but especially in the American League with the Rays at 10-3 and the Mariners at 13-2. They've been 2 of the best teams in baseball so far. In the Major League Baseball power rankings, the current top 10 Major League Baseball teams are the Dodgers, Phillies, Astros, Brewers, Rays, Yankees, Red Sox, Mets, Cardinals, and Nationals. You definitely want to keep an eye out on the Dodgers. They started off the season great. Cody Bellinger's been playing great as well. He's had a great season so far. He's been one of the best players in baseball as well. The Phillies have started off the season great. Bryce Harper looks great so far as well. The Dodgers and Phillies are definitely favorites to potentially reach the World Series. The Rays have definitely been a surprise. They have one of the best records in baseball right now as well. But the top 10 teams in the Major League Baseball power rankings this week. You definitely want to keep an eye out on them. And they're the 10 best teams in baseball right now. Right now, I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NFL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NFL football. DeMarcus Lawrence and the Cowboys have agreed to a 5-year contract extension. Wide receiver Seth Roberts and the Ravens have agreed to a 1-year contract. Wide receiver Sterling Shepard and the Giants have agreed to a 4-year contract extension. The Patriots re-signed kicker Steven Gronkowski to a 2-year contract. The Patriots have re-signed tight end Austin Seferian-Jenkins to a 1-year contract. The NFL released the preseason schedules. Now that we're in April, the NFL draft is around the corner and it's coming up and it's at the end of April. And the regular season schedules are getting ready to get released as well. That will be coming up in the next few weeks before the end of April as well. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about the NBA and NHL. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to NBA basketball. Dirk Nowitzki announced he is retiring from the NBA after 21 seasons with the Mavericks. Dirk Nowitzki was the 9th pick in the 1998 NBA draft. He is an NBA champion, NBA Finals MVP, the 2007 NBA MVP, a 14-time All-Star, and he ranks 6th in the all-time scoring list. Dirk Nowitzki set an NBA record for playing 21 seasons with one franchise. Congrats to Dirk Nowitzki on having a great career in the NBA with the Mavericks for 21 seasons. At the beginning of the season, Dwayne Wade announced it was going to be his last season and his one last dance in the NBA. Dwayne Wade was the 5th pick in the 2003 NBA draft. He is a 3-time NBA champion, the 2006 NBA Finals MVP, the 2010 All-Star MVP, the 2009 NBA scoring champion, and he is a 13-time All-Star. Congrats to Dwayne Wade on having a great career in the NBA. Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade had 30 points in their final home game of their career, and they're both retiring from the NBA at the end of the season. Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade said goodbye to their home crowds, and they also said goodbye to the NBA in their final game of their career, which was on the road. Congrats to Dirk Nowitzki and Dwayne Wade for having a great career in the NBA. Enjoy retirement, and the NBA is definitely going to miss both of you. Dirk Nowitzki joins Kobe Bryant and Karl Malone as the only 3 players to score 30,000 points with a single franchise. Dirk Nowitzki moved into 11 in all-time three-pointers made. This season, 13 players scored 50 points or more, which is an NBA record. James Harden scored 50 points or more 9 times this season. James Harden had 57 games this season of scoring 30 points or more. James Harden is the first player in NBA history to score 2,800 points and 500 assists in a season. On Tuesday, in the Suns-Mavericks game, Jamal Crawford scored 51 points off the bench. Jamal Crawford is the first player in NBA history to score 50 points with 4 different teams. Magic Johnson announced he is stepping down as a Lakers president of basketball operations. The Bucks have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They're the first seed and they clinch home court advantage throughout the playoffs. The Warriors have the best record in the Western Conference. They're the first seed and they clinch home court advantage throughout the playoffs. The Nuggets had a 34-7 home record this season, which was the best home record in the NBA this season. They won the Northwest Division and they clinch home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. The Nuggets made it into the playoffs as the second seed in the Western Conference after beating the Timberwolves in the final game of the regular season, 99-95. Throughout the regular season, the Nuggets were one of the best teams in the Western Conference and in the NBA. For parts of the season, the Nuggets were holding on to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, but for the rest of the season, they were able to hold on to the second seed, and they definitely didn't want to lose that second seed in the Western Conference. So, congrats to the Nuggets on having a great season. And in the playoffs, the Nuggets are going against the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs. So, a lot of people expected the Nuggets to be great this season, but they didn't expect them to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference and in the NBA. The Nuggets' expectations and what people expected from the Nuggets was to make it into the playoffs this season as one of the lower seeds in the Western Conference. But the Nuggets definitely surprised a lot of people across the NBA with the way they played this season. So my playoff predictions for the Nuggets, they got to play great basketball. They got to score 100 or more points in every game. They have to play great on offense and defense. They got to make easy shots. They got to make those layups. They got to make those free throws. They got to make shots that they can make. They got to make 3-pointers. That's everything that they need to do on offense to win games. And on defense, they definitely got to play defense. They can't leave people open, especially the best player or the best players on the opposing team. They got to stop the 3-pointers. They can't leave the players that can make 3-pointers wide open, because they're definitely going to make them. When they leave the players wide open that can make 3-pointers, the 3-pointers is what has killed the Nuggets. And that's the reason why the Nuggets have lost some of their games throughout the regular season. And they definitely got to play defense for the whole game, for the whole 48 minutes, not just for one quarter, half the game. Has to be the whole game. And the Nuggets definitely got to start off the game great. And they definitely need to score points right away. And that's the key to the Nuggets winning games throughout the playoffs. Now my predictions for the Nuggets can at least make it to the second round. They could beat the Spurs. It's going to land up being a series. The Spurs are a great team. Greg Popovich is one of the best coaches in the NBA and in all of sports. And he has a lot of playoff experience. The Spurs have been to the playoffs 22 consecutive seasons in a row. So you definitely don't want to say the Spurs is going to be an easy series. It could definitely be a challenge for the Nuggets, especially with their younger stars not having playoff experience. And except for Paul Millsap, everybody else on the roster, it's going to be their first time in the playoffs, but it's great that Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and the rest of the team's going to get playoff experience because they need it going into the future. And if the Nuggets can play great basketball, they can land up making it to the Western Conference Finals, going against the Warriors. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. So looking at the current playoff picture in the Eastern and Western Conference, to start off in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks were the number 1 seed, the Raptors were the number 2 seed, the 76ers were the number 3 seed, the Celtics were the number 4 seed, the Pacers were the number 5 seed, the Nets were the number 6 seed, the Magic were the number 7 seed, and the Pistons were the number 8 seed. Those were the top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference, and those are the teams that clinched a playoff berth. In the first round of the Eastern Conference, the Bucks are going against the Pistons, the Celtics are going against the Pacers, the 76ers are going against the Nets, and the Raptors are going against the Magic. All 4 of these series are definitely going to be great. The series I would keep an eye out on is the Celtics-Pacers series. Even with the Pacers being without Victor Oladipo, they're definitely going to challenge the Celtics. And it's going to be interesting to see what 2 teams make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's definitely a wide open competition in the Eastern Conference. And the first round of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference is definitely going to be exciting. In the Western Conference, the Warriors are the number 1 seed, the Nuggets are the number 2 seed, the Trailblazers are the number 3 seed, the Rockets are the number 4 seed, the Jazz are the 5th seed, the Thunder are the 6th seed, the Spurs are the 7th seed, and the Clippers are the 8th seed. So those were the top 8 teams and the teams that clinched a playoff berth in the Western Conference. In the first round of the playoffs, the Warriors are going against the Clippers, the Rockets are going against the Jazz, the Trailblazers are going against the Thunder, and the Nuggets are going against the Spurs. So that's the matchups in the first round of the playoffs in the Western Conference. The Warriors have the easiest series in the first round, and they should end up sweeping the Clippers or only losing 1 game. So I expect the Warriors to sweep the Clippers or go 4-1 against them. You definitely want to keep an eye out on the Rockets-Jazz series. That's going to be a great series. And the Nuggets-Spurs series, that's going to end up turning into a series. So, except for the Warriors, every other team in the NBA that's in the playoffs is definitely going to have a series. So that's the first round matchups in the playoffs in the Western Conference. So coming up towards the end of the regular season, the playoffs were pretty set in stone in the Eastern and Western Conference. All 8 teams clinched in the Western Conference, and in the Eastern Conference, we're waiting to see who is going to be the 6, 7, and 8 seed. That came up to the last game of the regular season. But everything else was set in stone, and a few teams were going to move up or down in the top 8 in both the Eastern and Western Conference. But every series in the Eastern and Western Conference throughout the playoffs is definitely going to be a great series, and they're definitely going to be. So I can't wait for the NBA playoffs to begin, and the NBA playoffs began on April 13th. Moving on now to NHL hockey. Tampa Bay won the President's Trophy. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference and in the NHL. Calgary has the best record in the Western Conference, and they clinched the Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference, Tampa Bay, Columbus, Boston, Toronto, Washington, Carolina, the New York Islanders, and Pittsburgh are in the playoffs. In the Western Conference, Nashville, Dallas, Winnipeg, St. Louis, Calgary, Colorado, San Jose, and Vegas are in the playoffs. The Avalanche made it into the Stanley Cup playoffs as the second wildcard team in the Western Conference, and they're going against Calgary in the first round of the playoffs. For the Avalanche, it's great that they made it into the playoffs once again this season. They made it in the playoffs last year as a wild card team, just like they did this year. Now last year, the Avalanche really didn't have a chance against Nashville. Nashville was one of the best teams in the Western Conference and in the NHL, so no one predicted or gave the Avalanche a chance at winning that series against Nashville. And the Avalanche ended up getting knocked out of the first round of the playoffs last year. But this year, it's different for the Avalanche. They're going into the playoffs with high hopes, and they're wanting to win this series, and they know they have a chance against Calgary. And with the Avalanche being one of the hottest teams in the NHL, the last 10 games of the season and the last few weeks of the regular season, and having one of the best goalies in the NHL, the Avalanche know they have a chance in the playoffs. And even though the Avalanche Flames series might turn into an actual series, they know they can probably win some games and maybe even potentially win this series and move on to the second round of the playoffs. And with the way the Avalanche finished off the regular season and being one of the hottest teams in the NHL, they're hoping to carry that on into the playoffs. For the NHL, they better watch out for the Avalanche, and especially the Calgary Flames. So for my playoff predictions for the Avalanche, they just got to play some great hockey and score a lot of goals in each game and win some games here in the first round of the playoffs against Calgary. And if they do, they have a chance at moving on to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Right now I'm going to give you the current playoff picture in the Eastern and Western Conference. So to start off in the Eastern Conference, in the first round of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, Tampa Bay will go against Columbus, Boston will go against Toronto, Washington will go against Carolina, and the New York Islanders will go against Pittsburgh. In the Western Conference, in the first round of the playoffs in the Western Conference, Calgary will go against Colorado, San Jose will go against Vegas, Nashville will go against Dallas, and Winnipeg will go against St. Louis. So that's all the playoff matchups in the Eastern and Western Conference. Even though there's wild card teams in the Eastern and Western Conference of the NHL, and the Avalanche are one of the wild card teams, you always want to keep an eye out for the wild card teams because they could be the surprise teams. We've seen what wild card teams can do in the NFL and Major League Baseball. Even though the wild card teams don't have the best record in the conference, they could definitely be the surprise team, and they could be the team that makes it all the way to the end, makes it to the championship game, and potentially wins the championship game too. We have seen wild card teams in the NFL and in Major League Baseball go in as a wild card team and make it all the way to the championship game and win the championship game as well. So I would definitely keep an eye out for these wild card teams in the NHL. And the Stanley Cup playoffs are underway right now. The Nuggets and Avalanche are both in the playoffs. It's a great time of year here in the Mile High City and for Denver sports. We got the Nuggets in the NBA playoffs. They're going against the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs. We got the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they're going against Calgary in the first round of the playoffs. So if you're a Colorado sports fan, it's a great time of year. If you're a fan of the Nuggets or the Avalanche or both, you definitely need to check out their playoff games here at the Pepsi Center when they're at home. They definitely need a hometown crowd rooting for them. They need the support from the fans. If you can't make it out to the Pepsi Center for their home games, You definitely need to watch them on TV as well and root them on when they're playing their road games as well. So it's definitely a great time of year right now. And we definitely need to root for the Nuggets and the Avalanche in the playoffs. Congrats to the Nuggets and the Avalanche for both making it into the playoffs this season. Good luck to the Nuggets and the Avalanche in the playoffs. And I hope you both go far. And hopefully we see the Nuggets in the NBA Finals and the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup Final. And hopefully they both can win the championship. You never know. All we can do is root for them and hope for the best. So good luck to the Nuggets and the Avalanche in the playoffs. Right now I'm going to take a commercial break. When I come back, I will talk about college basketball and the end of the show. Welcome back to All Sports with Gerardo. Moving on now to college basketball. Kentucky head coach John Calipari has agreed to a lifetime contract. In the 2019 Men's College Basketball Final Four, number 3 Texas Tech beat number 2 Michigan State 61-51, and number 1 Virginia beat number 5 Auburn 63-62. Number 1 Virginia beat number 3 Texas Tech in overtime 85-77 in the Men's College Basketball National Championship game. Virginia won its first Men's College Basketball National Championship game in program history. It was the first time in program history Texas Tech was playing in the national championship game in college basketball. Now for the Men's College Basketball Final Four, a lot of people wouldn't have predicted that Texas Tech, Michigan State, Virginia, and Auburn would have made it into the Final Four, especially Texas Tech and Auburn. A lot of people expected Duke and UNC to be one of the 2 teams playing in the Men's College Basketball Final Four, but there were a lot of teams in the Elite 8 that were upset by lower seeds. So in the college basketball tournament, there's always upsets, and a lot of lower seeds will upset the higher seeds. It always happens every year during March Madness. But the men's and women's college basketball tournament was definitely great this year. It was a great tournament. There were a lot of great games, a lot of upsets, and there were also a lot of games that were only won by 1 point. There were a lot of those throughout the tournament, from the beginning to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and the Final Four, and even in the college basketball national championship game too. So it was definitely a great college basketball tournament. In the 2019 Women's College Basketball Final Four, number 1 Baylor beat number 2 Oregon 72-67, and number 1 Notre Dame beat number 2 UConn 81-76. Number 1 Baylor beat number 1 Notre Dame 82-81 in the Women's College Basketball National Championship game. Moving on now to end the show. What to watch for this week in sports? NBA basketball, the NBA playoffs, the Nuggets go against the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs, NHL hockey, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Avalanche go against Calgary in the first round of the playoffs, Major League Baseball. Moving on now, on the next show, I will talk about NFL football, Major League Baseball, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and college basketball. I hope y'all have a great weekend. Tune in to the next All Sports with Gerardo show next Thursday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. I want to say thank you to everybody that listens to All Sports through Met Radio here on mymetmedia.com. Subscribe or like my pages on social media at All Sports with Gerardo. Until next time, this is Gerardo.